Hello, everyone. Kris here with Inspired Energy. Good morning, Hartwell.
Good morning, Kris.
We have a
Good
special
morning,
guest with us
everyone.
today. This is Boo Boo, the bear, and he's here to help me as I'm babysitting him for the last couple days or last overnight, anyways. So, this morning, our topic is all about the gates of Cancer. We're moving into Cancer. So, we can start off by having Hartwell just, if you could generally tell us what things are associated with, what characteristics are associated with Cancer.
Sure. Well, Cancer is a cardinal water sign, so it begins a season, and it is known for being deeply feeling oriented, subjective in its approach to the world. There's a sense of privacy about Cancer and to Cancer, that sense that yes, I have a deeply feeling life, but I don't necessarily trust you. And so, I'm going to keep it to myself. So the
Mm-hmm.
crab is the symbol, that symbol of, it's like having its hard shell, but underneath its yummy, yummy, yummy flesh is needing to be protected. So family orientation, feeling orientation, often cancers are very psychic people, is an
Mm-hmm.
association with Cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Protective, um, conservative, often politically. Um, Mothering energy and nurturing is associated with Cancer. These are some of the things that we see.
Ah.
And the moon, of course, is the ruler. And the moon is very changeable. So there can be a moodiness as well.
Mm-hmm.
I just started singing Cat Stevens' song Moon Shadow, and it's like, how did that pop into my mind all of a sudden? Maybe
so,
that's relevant.
so, based on the above qualities that you were talking about, what kind of archetypes are associated with Cancer?
Well, we see the protector, which is more of a male energy, or, the guardian of the hearth, the guardian of the fire, guardian of the home. We see the nurturer, we see the protector, we see the counselor, the healer. These are what is typically associated with Cancer.
So, with that, can some of these guesses from the traits, what might you expect to find in terms of human design gates?
Well, when I started thinking about this before I actually looked, I thought, okay, well, Cancer is associated with family. So maybe there are tribal gates, part of the tribal circuitry. Maybe there's a lot of Cancer. Maybe the Cancer has a lot of tribal gates. Um, Maybe, because emotionality and desire and need and certain signs of sensitivity are associated with Cancer. Maybe there's a lot
Mhm.
of gates that are emotional in the solar plexus.
Right.
So those are a couple of the things that I might have predicted.
Mm-hmm.
It's not what I found.
Haha. Well, this is interesting. That's
No.
probably why you had so many notes about it. So now let's dive into the human design part of it. What? Boo
But
Boo wants to know what the gates are that make up or for Cancer in human design. He's whispering in my ear.
okay, well, boo boo. There's six gates that we'll talk about. We didn't really talk much about the 15. It's a kind of a bridging gate between Gemini and Cancer. And
Mm-hmm.
you could say that the last one we talk about bridges a little bit into Leo. But 15 is the summer solstice gate. It's the gate of extremes, it's called, the gate of the
Mm-hmm.
love of humanity. This is an energy where anybody who has it is they're here to learn to love the extremes of their own life, to love these extremes, to allow the extremes, and to embrace the extremes that show up in the world. So what I'm saying is, one night you maybe stay up till 2 in the morning. The next morning, maybe the next night you go to bed at 10.
Mm-hmm.
So extremes of habits, fluctuations of rhythms are part of the gate of extremes. And it is part of really appreciating diversity and variety in humans and how they show up in the world. Because we are all kinds of people,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes, we are.
So that's the gate of extremes, which is in the G center.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we have the gate 52, which is in the root center. It's called the gate of stillness. And this
Mm-hmm.
is the pressure to assess, um, it's the pressure to assess life, the pressure and the raw power to concentrate, to hone in on something and be still, for the purpose of going deep. So this
Mm-hmm.
is the ability to take the logical pattern of life, which is part of the collective logic circuitry, the understanding circuitry, and go deep with it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that pressure to lock in, to assess, to go deep.
Interesting.
Gate, I'm going to skip one gate. I'm not necessarily. The next gate I want to talk about is gate 52, 53, also in the root. So we have the gate 53 is the gate of beginnings. So it's part of the format channel that is about cyclical development.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the process of maturation. We start at life, we go to death, we start at, the beginning, we go to the end. This is part of the sensing circuitry, but it's collective. So it's all about the format, it's a format that applies to all of life as beginning and ending theme.
Mm-hmm.
Relationships, ideas, projects, trends. This is the ability to fuel something new and, with the intention of taking it through a cycle.
Cool.
So that's pretty interesting. So here we have two gates in the root. Now, 39 is also one of the Cancer gates, and you will be familiar with this gate. The
Yeah,
gate of the gate of provocation.
yes.
Yeah. And so the gate of provocation is in the root pointing towards the solar plexus.
Mm-hmm.
And it's part of the individual circuitry. And this is the pressure to provoke emotional awareness and spirit in any environment that you're part of. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, how can it's about how can I reach through all the bullshit, all the crap, all the moodiness of people and get to the spirit that is going to raise us up and enliven us all. So it's the
Mm-hmm.
pressure to find or provoke the right spirit.
Yeah.
And when that's done correctly in alignment with the strategy and authority, then of course there can be a powerful emotional mutation of the collective when you're in
Mm-hmm.
the right mood, when somebody's in the right mood with this channel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's that's the only one that has sort of emotional implications, and it's about individuality, though the individual and the mutation of the collective. So that one, in some ways, feels Cancerian to me, although I
Mm-hmm.
don't see cancers as provocative, but the emotional part, I
The
do.
emotional part that can provocate, right? You can set people off with your emotions, right?
Yes. The next two gates, gate 62 and gate 56, are both in the throat, pointing up
Mm-hmm.
to the ajna. Gate 56, the gate of stimulation, it's the gate of the casual historian, the storyteller, the philosopher, the voice of I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about sharing experience. So it's part of the abstract circuitry, the collective
Mm-hmm.
abstract circuitry, sharing details, sharing facts, but in an emotion tinged way, in an
Mm-hmm.
experientially tinged way.
That feels very Cancerian to me.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like,
That
yeah.
yeah. So yeah, the telling of stories and it does.
Well, in an emotional way, because
Yes.
they they tend to be very emotional when they're expressing and sharing a story, right?
Yes, and I mean it is not anywhere near the solar plexus, but because of it's related to the experiential way, the sensing circuit. It does have a little bit more of that flavor,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, it's called the gate of stimulation. So there's this desire to stimulate people through your stories.
Mm-hmm.
The other gate, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
the gate of details on the other side, also pointing to the ajna, is about thinking. And it's about the details and the names, and it concretizes and communicates in visual patterns. It organizes details as facts to better understand and explain complex
Mm-hmm.
concepts.
Right.
So it's part of the logical circuitry.
Mm-hmm.
So the stimulation gate, I kind of skipped. I didn't take them in order of how they appear in, as we go through Cancer, which
Mm-hmm.
I normally do. I skipped that a little bit. But 56 is the one that bridges a little bit with Leo.
Mm-hmm.
So that tendency to tell stories you could see as Cancerian / Leo
Mm-hmm.
ish.
Ish. So
Yeah.
what are the interesting patterns that emerged out of these gates in Cancer for you?
Well, what I found interesting is that 4 out of the 5 that are fully in Cancer are all collective circuitry. So remember, we have three three main circuits. Um, we have collective circuitry, which can be both either logical or experiential,
Mm-hmm.
and it wants to share things with people. And it's not emotionally attached to what it shares. Then we
Mm-hmm.
have the tribal circuitry, which is all about support, and we have the individual circuitry, which is all about empowerment. So here in Cancer, what we see is 4 gates that are collective. 2 of them are logical, 2 of them are experiential. So there's an interesting balance there. So there's a well-roundedness here. You have
Mm-hmm.
details, and the gate of details and the gate of stillness are logical, and the gate of stimulation and the gate of beginnings are experiential. And they're also very symmetrical. So they're on either side. They're very symmetrical to each other. 2 in the root, 2 in the throat, pointing up to the ajna.
Mm-hmm.
And the other circuit is the 56 or 39, which is individual.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 2 throat gates and 2 root gates. I also found that interesting. 3 root gates, actually, because gate 39 is a root gate, which means that Cancer is actually a very driven sign, because the root is about drive. It's about the desire to evolve, to push
Mm-hmm.
forward in life. It's pressurized.
Mm-hmm.
So interestingly, what we see from this exploration is that Cancer is quite driven.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So how do these gates reflect our traditional understanding of Cancer?
Well, of the signs that we've looked at so far,
Mm-hmm.
I would say that these Cancer gates they least they match least well to what I normally associate with Cancer.
Well, do you think that's because they have a shell and they're hiding
Well,
underneath?
well, even though we want to be private, we can't really hide. We still see
Mhm.
things about each other, right?
Right.
So to me, Cancer wants to share with the world. These gates want to share. 4 of them are part of the collective circuitry. So that's not about being very hidden. You can see maybe the gate of stillness might, have a tendency to be restrained and hide.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I mean, the gate of stimulation, we saw, you put in a comment there. That sounds kind of cancerish. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
the gate of provocation, Cancer can be prickly.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that as Cancer, but the other ones, no, they don't really match.
Mm-hmm. So before we wrap up here, is there anything else or any other conclusions or anything else you want to tell us about the gates of Cancer?
Well, what I'm thinking for myself is that I think this is going to reshape some of my understanding around astrology.
Mm-hmm.
In astrology, there is a tendency to be less focused on the signs and more focused on the planets and their aspects to each other. That's my instinct in evolution as an astrologer. And I see a bit of a breakdown in some of what I would, some of the importance that I would place on signs in terms of astrology. I see a bit of a breakdown evolving from this exploration.
Mm-hmm.
But it also enriches us. And, I just really like the idea of realizing, well, there's 5 or 6 different ways to be a Cancer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there, at least in the Cancer archetype, there doesn't seem to be much holding that together
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the traditional archetypes for Cancer. Do you have
So
any thoughts?
me, I
Yeah.
just I think that the gate of provocation and
Stimulation.
stimulation are the ones that draw my attention. I wouldn't necessarily see Cancer as a gate of stillness, and the ability to concentrate, especially because if they are very intuitive, they tend not to be able to focus. They tend to be all over the place, is my experience.
Mm.
But that's not necessarily true for everyone. So, yeah. With
Yeah.
that, I guess that we'll just wrap it up because next week we're going to be doing the gates of Leo.
Leo.
So
Leo.
make sure I get that right in the right order, Mr. Astrologer. I want to thank you for being here and sharing your wisdom and knowledge with us once again. And we'll thank Boo Boo the Bear for being here and keeping us company today. And with that, we'll say God bless. We hope you enjoyed the show and join us next Wednesday at 9 a.m. We'll see you all.
See you all.